The blizzard hit without warning. Former Navy SEAL Jake Mitchell squinted through the wall of white ahead, his knuckles tight on the steering wheel as his truck crawled along the deserted mountain road. The temperature gauge read -15 degrees, and it was dropping fast. He was 3 hours from civilization, heading home from a survival training seminar in the Colorado Rockies, when he saw something that made his blood run cold. A dark shape moved near the tree line, then another, smaller ones. Jake's training kicked in immediately. He eased his truck to a stop, hazards blinking orange against the swirling snow. Through the passenger window, he could make out what he'd seen: a large German shepherd standing protectively over 2 small puppies, all 3 covered in snow and ice. The mother dog's eyes locked onto his. Even from this distance, Jake could see the desperation in them. She wasn't cowering or aggressive. She was pleading.
If you're already hooked on this incredible story, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another heartwarming rescue. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. Jake killed the engine and grabbed his emergency kit from behind the seat. 20 years in the Navy SEALs had taught him to read situations fast, and this one was critical. Those dogs had maybe an hour before hypothermia took them, maybe less for the puppies. He pushed open the door, and the wind nearly ripped it from his hands. The cold bit through his heavy jacket like it was tissue paper. Snow stung his face as he moved around the truck, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. The last thing he needed was to spook them deeper into the woods. The German shepherd watched him approach, her body tense but not hostile. She was shivering violently, her thick coat matted with ice. The 2 puppies, no more than 8 weeks, huddled beneath her, their tiny bodies trembling uncontrollably. "Easy, girl," Jake said softly, crouching down a few feet away. "I'm here to help." The dog's ears flicked forward. She glanced down at her puppies, then back at Jake. In that moment, he saw something that hit him harder than any training exercise ever had. A mother making an impossible choice: trust a stranger or watch her babies die.
Jake opened his emergency kit and pulled out a thermal blanket. He laid it on the snow between them, then slowly backed away. The shepherd sniffed the air, taking his measure. Seconds felt like hours as the wind howled around them. Then she did something remarkable. She gently picked up one puppy by the scruff and placed it on the blanket, then the other. She looked at Jake again, and this time her message was clear: help them first. Jake's throat tightened. He'd seen courage in many forms during his military career, but this was different. This was a mother's love transcending fear and instinct. He moved quickly now, wrapping the puppies in the thermal blanket and tucking them inside his jacket against his chest. Their tiny hearts hammered against him like hummingbird wings. They were barely conscious, their body temperatures dangerously low. The mother followed as Jake carried her babies to the truck. She didn't hesitate when he opened the door, jumping in immediately to be close to them. Jake cranked the heat to maximum and grabbed more blankets from his emergency supplies. Before we continue our story, let's take just 5 seconds. If this story is touching your heart, please press the like button. subscribe to the channel, and stay with us because many more beautiful stories are coming. Thank you, my dear friend. Now, let us continue. As warm air flooded the cab, Jake examined his unexpected passengers more carefully. The German Shepherd wore a worn collar but no tags. Her ribs showed through her coat, and her paws were cracked and bleeding. These dogs had been out here for days, maybe longer. The puppies began to stir, their tiny whimpers growing stronger as feeling returned to their limbs. The mother licked them frantically, her tail giving a tentative wag. Jake found a bottle of water and poured some into a bowl. The shepherd drank desperately, pausing only to check on her babies. Jake pulled out his satellite phone. No signal. The storm was interfering with everything. He was on his own, and the nearest town was still 2.5 hours away if the road stayed passable. He looked at the dogs, then at the darkening sky. The storm was getting worse. "All right, team," he said, putting the truck in gear. "We're getting out of here together." The drive down the mountain was treacherous. Visibility dropped to near zero several times, forcing Jake to navigate by memory and intuition. The shepherd sat in the passenger seat, alert and watchful, as if she understood that they were all depending on each other now. About an hour into the journey, one of the puppies started crying weakly. The mother immediately grew agitated, whining and pawing at Jake's arm. He glanced over and saw that the smaller puppy, a little female with a white patch on her chest, was barely breathing. Jake's SEAL training kicked into high gear. He couldn't stop, not in this weather, but he could help. He reached behind the seat with one hand, steering with the other, and grabbed his first aid kit. The mother watched intently as he gently rubbed the puppy's chest, stimulating circulation. "Come on, little one, fight. Your mom didn't bring you this far to give up now." The puppy gasped, and her tiny chest began to rise and fall more steadily. The shepherd whined and licked Jake's hand, a gesture so human it nearly broke him. They were a team now, fighting together against the mountain and the storm. Mile by mile, the truck descended. The storm began to ease as they dropped in elevation, and Jake finally picked up a phone signal. He called ahead to the veterinary clinic in Cascade Falls, the small town at the base of the mountain. "Doc Martinez, it's Jake Mitchell. I'm coming in hot with 3 dogs in bad shape, mother and 2 pups, severe hypothermia and malnutrition. ETA 40 minutes. "I'll be ready," came the reply. "Drive safe, Jake." The lights of Cascade Falls appeared through the thinning snow like a beacon. Jake had never been so relieved to see the small mountain town where he'd lived for the past 3 years. The veterinary clinic sat on Main Street, its lights blazing. Dr. Elena Martinez met them at the door with 2 vet techs. She was a compact woman with quick hands and kind eyes, and she assessed the situation in seconds. "Exam room 2, let's move." Jake carried the puppies while the shepherd followed on unsteady legs. For the next 2 hours, he watched as Dr. Martinez and her team worked their magic. IV fluids for dehydration, warm saline baths to raise body temperatures gradually, medications for the shepherd's infected paws. The dogs were severely malnourished and had been exposed to the elements for at least 4 or 5 days, Dr. Martinez explained, but they were fighters. All 3 would survive.
"Someone abandoned them," she said quietly, anger flashing in her eyes. "Probably dumped them on the mountain road, thinking no one would find them before winter did the job." Jake felt rage simmer in his gut, but he pushed it down. He'd learned long ago that some people's cruelty was beyond understanding. What mattered now was what came next. "What happens to them?" he asked. "I'll call the county shelter in the morning. They'll hold them for the standard period, see if anyone claims them. After that, they'll try to find them homes."
Jake looked through the window into the exam room. The shepherd was finally resting, her puppies curled against her belly. Even in sleep, she kept one protective paw over them. Something in his chest cracked open. He'd been alone since leaving the seals, keeping to himself in his cabin, telling himself he preferred the solitude. But watching this family fight to stay together, seeing the mother's fierce devotion to her babies, made him realize how much he'd been missing. "Don't call the shelter," Jake heard himself say. "They're coming home with me." Dr. Martinez smiled like she'd been expecting this. "Thought you might say that. Let's get the paperwork started." 3 days later, Jake sat on his cabin floor surrounded by puppies. The little female with the white chest patch, whom he'd named Hope, was trying to climb his leg, while her brother, whom he'd named Courage, attacked his shoelaces. Their mother, now officially named Sierra, watched from her new dog bed with what Jake could swear was contentment in her eyes. His phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Martinez. "How's the new family settling in?" Jake snapped a photo of the chaos around him and sent it back with the caption, "Best decision I ever made." But the story didn't end there. It exploded. Jake's friend Marcus, who'd visited to meet the new additions, had posted the rescue story on social media. Within days, it had gone viral. News outlets picked it up. Donations poured into Dr. Martinez's clinic. Most importantly, people started talking about animal abandonment and the importance of rescuing rather than buying pets. A month later, Jake stood in his yard watching Sierra play with her now healthy puppies in the snow. She'd filled out, her coat gleaming, her paws healed. The puppies were growing fast, tumbling over each other in the way that only puppies can. His phone rang. It was the local high school principal. "Mr. Mitchell, I know this might seem strange, but we'd love to have you and Sierra visit our school. Talk to the kids about responsibility, courage, and what it means to show up for those who can't help themselves. We'd like to make it a regular thing if you're interested." Jake looked at Sierra, who gazed back at him with those intelligent eyes. A therapy dog program. Why not? She certainly had the temperament for it, and if their story could help kids learn compassion and responsibility, it would honor everything she'd been through. "We'd be honored," Jake said. On a cold February morning, Jake loaded Sierra and the pups into his truck, the same truck that had brought them down the mountain. As he drove past the spot where he'd found them, he slowed down and looked at the tree line. He thought about the choices that had led to this moment. His choice to stop, Sierra's choice to trust, the mountain's choice to let them pass. Life was full of crossroads, he realized, moments where you could drive past or you could stop and open the door. Some people called it fate, others called it luck. Jake called it what it was, a family finding each other when they needed it most. Sierra woofed softly from the passenger seat, her paw on his arm. In the back,
The puppies wrestled with a rope toy. The cab was warm, filled with the sound of happy dogs and a future full of possibilities. Jake Mitchell had spent 20 years learning to survive in impossible conditions, to never leave a man behind, to fight for what mattered. But it took a freezing dog family on a mountain road to teach him the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the missions that save us are the ones we never saw coming. The blizzard that brought them together was long over, but the warmth they'd found in each other would last forever. If this story touched your heart like it touched mine, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories of hope, rescue, and the unbreakable bonds between humans and animals. Drop a comment below and tell us about a time when you helped an animal in need, or when an animal helped you. Let's spread some love together. And remember, sometimes all it takes is one person willing to open the door.